As ever, let me know your thoughts, mailmog@gbnews.com. But I'm joined now by the man of the hour himself, the leader of Reform, Richard Tice, and the contributing editor of Novara Media, Michael Walker. Richard, let me come to you first. You're grinning from ear to ear. You must be quite happy today.
It's been a very good day. You've just eloquently made the case, of course, for proportional representation because you believe in competition, Jacob. And the great thing about competition is that it makes people perform better. And the issue that has gone wrong for the Conservative Party is that people from a wide variety place their trust in the manifesto of 2019 that it would be delivered. And if you say to people you're going to do something and then you don't do it, or with regard to lawful immigration do exactly the opposite, don't be surprised if people say, I like the competition over there, that's where I'm off to. And that's what's happened.
There is competition in politics, there always is competition for ideas, but proportional representation means that you always get the centre ground, you always get a stitch up. Look what happens in Germany and in Ireland, where the big parties come together to squeeze out.
But it doesn't happen
parties.
in Scotland and Wales, where we have PR, and actually it works very well, and you've got... So actually that completely undermines your case.
You're saying it works well in Wales?
Well,
Wales got good government? Is that what, is that what Reform's advocating?
Wales uses PR and Wales chooses to vote for Labour so far. Let's see what happens. But the point is, PR is adopted all over the world.
And not in the United States and not in this country, and it gives us clarity of leadership.
But what it also gives you is a much lower voter turnout, because not every vote, sadly, is equal. It does. Jacob, the numbers are clear. The average turnout with PR is about 10% higher. That's another 3 million people gloriously engaged in the democratic process.
Very selective looking at the figures. We get high turnouts in this country.
We get about 65, 66%.
We normally get over 70%. The only election below that, really, by any margin, is 2001, when we're down at 59. So if you exclude 2001, we're normally about 70%.
There might be a bit of inflation there, but we'll check that data. Anyway, the point is that competition is a good thing, and it's very good that people have now got they've got a broader range of things to debate.
More or less of what you want if the Conservatives lose the next election and you get Keir Starmer in, which is what you can do.
As I've said, frankly, vote Tory, get Starmer, vote Reform, get Reform. What I'm saying is, in the Red Wall, Lee's going to be our champion, and our ambition is to replace the Tories this time round in the Red Wall. Big job. But I think
in the Red Wall, not in the country at large.
We're starting with the Red Wall.
Party.
No, we're starting in the Red Wall, but it's the most important because you only got an 80-seat majority because you won in the Red Wall. And what I think we're seeing with the Conservative Party is that it's such a broad coalition that it's not able to hold that together.
Are you just a group of disgruntled people who haven't got on in the Tory party? So Lee's lost the whip. You wanted to be Mayor of London. I supported you for that role. I thought you'd been excellent at it. Is it just you're a bit chippy because you haven't got what you wanted, so you've gone off in a sulk like a 4-year-old?
But competition is a great thing.
No, but is that your motivation? Is your motivation rejection?
Look, the problem is with the Conservative Party is it's now full of social democrats and what I call con-socialists. And there are very few real Conservatives who understand the philosophy of conservatism. And you can't just say, well, it's only us, people are only ever going to vote for us. No, if you don't do a good job, you're going to get fired, you're going to get punished, and that's the joy of competition. It's like a plumber. If you have a plumber that doesn't fix the plumbing, you're going to get a different plumber.
But that's what happens in elections, obviously. But the Conservative Party has been the base for conservative ideas, and that people remaining within it ensure that it has leadership that they like, and that what you've done is made it much more likely a hard left party will get in.
A core conservative principle is the power of competition drives up standards and drives down costs. And we are providing serious competition that the Conservative Party now doesn't like because we're good at what we do. We've got a great set of policies, and more people, as they hear about us, think, that's what I like.
You've now got one seat in Parliament. You're not doing that well.
Well, hang on.
You've got one seat in Parliament from a defection.
Well, given that the Conservative Party laughed at me 3 years ago for even setting up Reform UK, and now actually we're polling only 5% behind you as of a poll last week.
How did you do in actual votes? How did you do in Kingswood? How did you do in Wellingborough? How did you do in Rochdale?
In Kingswood and Wellingborough, we will see, give or take, the polling range. So, we're making progress. The terrifying thing for you, Jacob, is that people still haven't heard of Reform. But already, we're doing really well in the polls. We're going up, the Conservatives are going down, because you're not performing. That's how democracy works.
You don't seem to be winning, though. And those by-elections were a real opportunity. The SDP when they were new and nobody had heard of them, managed to win by-elections, but you can't get voters
That's
out
because
for
of
you.
the flaws of your dreadful first-past-the-post system, which protects the duopoly. It protects a monopoly-type situation.
The SDP, with the same electoral system, could win by-elections, overturning huge Tory majorities, but you can't do that. You seem to have a natural ceiling.
No, I don't think we're a natural ceiling. We seem to be breaking
I must
through.
bring Michael in, who's been very patient looking at the internal ways of the Tory party. But do you broadly accept the proposition that if you divide wings of the electoral part, you lose, and that Labour suffered very heavily from this in the 80s, in some ways continues to suffer because the Lib Dems take votes that would naturally be on the left?
Well, I mean, I don't agree with Richard on many things, but I do agree on proportional representation. I think the problem with first past the post is people like yourself get to essentially bully the smaller parties and say, look, all you're going to do is wreck it for all of us, so basically capitulate. And what that does is it gives a lot of power. It gives a lot of power to the bureaucrats at the top of political parties. I mean, the Labour Party is a clear example of this now, where they can say, if you speak in a way that we don't particularly like, we will kick you out, and therefore you'll lose all political influence because we are a two-party system, and we will remain one.
Isn't this more honest with the electorate, because you get a coalition that is put before them on election day rather than a coalition that is cooked up for them afterwards, so they know the coalition they're voting for? And of course all main parties are coalitions.
Well, so I would say that you're always going to be governed by a coalition, let's say, and the decision is, does that coalition get decided upon in smoky rooms, sort of at the top of the Conservative Party or the top of the Labour Party, or does it get negotiated out in the open by two parties that people have voted for, right? So if you've got, say, I'm on the left, if you've got the Labour Party and a party to their left, then instead of there being this internal endless sort of dispute within it, they can go out into the open and say, well, we've won 20%, so we think that we've sort of got some ability and right to demand this much welfare state, and we've won 30%, so we think that we should be able to...
The negotiation between the Conservatives and the Lib Dems took place in secret, with the last coalition that we had.
Yeah, but
whereas when you go out to vote, you know the proposition from either of the main parties, and that's clear.
But the big issue is then you've only got two parties to choose from, right? So yeah, you can see it out in the open.
Which are themselves coalitions, inevitably.
Yes, but what if you'll have many voters going to the polls who don't like particularly the proposition from either?
Before we end, though, what are your thoughts on Lee Anderson? How much does that matter? Should the Conservatives be quaking in their boots if 8 more go? Does that matter?
Well, I think it was interesting what Richard said there, actually, because I think you might have misunderstood Boris Johnson's coalition, dare I say, because I don't think, he was offering, it was a very impressive electoral campaign. Obviously, I disagreed with it, but he was saying, one, I can make politics stop. There was a really effective, I think it was a sort of Dominic Cummings advert, where he was sort of saying, everyone's arguing over Brexit, vote for us, and it will stop. Now people think vote Keir Starmer and politics is going to stop because he's the guy who seems less ideological than you two. The other thing you've said that's interesting is your critique of the Conservatives is that they're too social democratic. Now, I think what Boris Johnson was quite successful as doing was saying, look, I know you guys in the Red Wall aren't very economically right-wing. You're not obsessed with low taxes. You actually think that sort of David Cameron and George Osborne's attack on the welfare state was a bad thing. And now you seem to be pitching to the right of the current Conservative Party led by Rishi Sunak, which to me doesn't seem like a coalition.
But what we want is we want low taxes for the lowest paid, which is why you've got to increase the starting point for income tax to £20,000, freeing up 7
How are you going to do levelling up?
Right.
Freeing up 7 million people from paying any income tax at all. Make work pay. It's a great thing, work.
Make work pay. That's a great slogan for the Conservatives.